So it finally happened, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like Disney's Snow White live-action remake is actually going to come out. Even though a lot of us, myself included, speculated that when it got delayed, it might just get quietly shelved and forgotten about. But they spent too much money on this movie, so they need to release it. And this past weekend was D23, the expo where Disney shows off a bunch of trailers and makes a bunch of announcements about their upcoming projects. And we got a teaser trailer for the Snow White movie. Now, I don't know if everybody's clued in on the controversy at this point because we're like a year out from when this stuff really hit the virality on social media. So I thought I would do a little summary before we talk about this teaser trailer of everything that led up to this point. So this movie has been mired in controversy for a variety of reasons, and we'll get into all of those. The first one was Peter Dinklage, the actor from Game of Thrones, blasted this movie in a podcast where he insinuated that it was insulting to people with dwarfism. We'll play his clip here.
Backward.
Oh.
Story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Saying Disney pretends to be this progressive company, and yet they're making this backwards film about dwarves living in a cave and stuff, which is just a very inaccurate portrayal of how the dwarves are depicted in this movie. For one, they live in a house, and they work in a mine, which is a working class job to have, and definitely not something that should be looked down on, in my opinion. And there's nothing that should be offensive or stereotypical about these dwarves. I think that they are portrayed with dignity and they are nice people. I don't think that it's really a good thing to blast it like this because they overreacted to this statement here. And at a certain point, they were talking about removing the dwarves and instead having magical creatures. And instead, it looks like they went back on that after the backlash to the backlash. They went back on that, and now in this trailer, you can see that we have CGI dwarfs dancing around. And we'll talk about my feelings on that later. It looks a little creepy, but that's what they ended up with. And I think that this is a shame because these are the perfect roles for people with dwarfism. It is difficult to get roles like this in Hollywood in general for people with dwarfism, and there were lots of individuals who have this condition who are trying to be actors who talked about this is 12 amazing roles that you just took away from people like you, speaking to Peter Dinklage. So I agree with that criticism. Honestly, I care about that a lot more than I care about the Rachel Zegler stuff. And we'll get into that now. So the Rachel Zegler stuff, I've always said in my videos, you can go back and watch them, it's a bit misdirected to say it's her that's the problem. A lot of people were saying replace her, but the reason why these statements mattered is because she's just echoing what the producers of the movie were telling her about it. And basically, they're trying to rewrite the story to be a new politically correct version, even though most people watch those old movies and don't see anything wrong with it. And you'll see here that she talks down on the element of romance in the original film, which is a crucial part of why people resonate with these, particularly young women who watch these stories. They aspire to have a romance in their lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great thing to have and to aspire to, and I think that her saying that that's a bad thing is an overcorrection for other problems that have nothing to do with the Snow White original movie. So Snow White, and why people ask why I care about it, it's a crucial part of film history. Walt Disney was a visionary animation master, and it was not the first feature-length animated film, but it was the first important one that people actually saw. Everybody told him it was Walt's folly. Nobody believed in it until it came out, and he showed the world his vision, and it changed the world, and it led to where we are now with animation. So I think it's a very important film, and I think it still holds up. There's some things about it that are a little old-fashioned, but I've watched it semi-recently. I got a Blu-ray after my videos about it blew up. I was like, I gotta watch this again. Saw the special features and stuff. It's an amazing film, and talking down on it like this for the audience you're trying to recapture are people who love this film, love these old Disney stories, and just talking about it in this way as something that needs to be corrected, something that's wrong, something that's old-fashioned, is not the right move from a PR perspective when you're trying to get those people who love the original back into the theater. So this is the statement that really blew this whole controversy up.
By that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's
the tone, it's a smug tone, talking down on something that came out in 1937, and it's old-fashioned, and we're better than that now, and it's this attitude that people didn't like. And the only criticism I will have for Rachel Zegler here, she's a young individual, she can make mistakes and all that. I don't like directing all the hate at her, but the one thing I will say is the only thing when you get a role of this magnitude that you should really be expressing is gratitude and saying, I hope I live up to your expectations. Like that is what people want to hear. And that's really, from a public relations perspective, the only thing that really should be expressed, in my opinion. So this blew up way after these interviews happened. I think this is like 2 years ago at this point. This D23 Expo 2022. So
a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
That's
weird.
Okay, so that's the thing that really blew up, that clip right there. And portraying the Prince Charming romance as something that was a stalkerish behavior, it's just not accurate. If you have any sort of media literacy, you watch those scenes. And she says it's a big part of the story. It's really just the beginning scene and the ending scene that really has that element in it. So it's a bit strange to focus on that as like this major sticking point that you have. So the portrayal of the prince in this scene as a stalker is just completely inaccurate. She's singing at the well, aspiring to that sense of romance, and he happens to be riding by at that moment. It's not like he stalked her to find her specifically at this time because he knew she was going to be there. He just happened to be riding by, heard the music, and wanted to join in and sees her and thinks she's lovely and all that and joins in with the song. And she's embarrassed, and you can understand why she runs away in this moment, because if you're ever by yourself singing, you're not expecting people to hear you, and you feel this sense of security because there's nobody else around. You feel like you can sing without having to worry about if it's good or not, or embarrassing yourself. And then somebody comes out of the blue, let alone somebody you might find attractive, and all of a sudden it's a completely different situation and you're feeling intimidated and you run away. It's not because she feels like scared of him or stalked, it's because she's embarrassed and she's not dressed up. You know, she's got the like ratty working clothes on. She's not ready for this situation at that moment. She's not mentally prepared for that. But you can see the prince continues to sing because he's trying to kind of attract her in a way, and it's like a flirtatious thing, and she peeks out a little bit, noticeably hiding her ratty clothes. And that's why this scene is the way that it is. It's so inaccurate and foolish, and you can't have any media literacy and have that opinion of this scene. It's definitely not how it's meant to be. In fact, she comes out and feels comfortable later singing on the balcony, and it's a lovely scene, and it's really nice, and there's nothing stalkerish about it. And at the end, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, you shouldn't kiss a dead body. That's fine, but it is like a romantic fantasy. And yes, you could put it in real life terms and say, oh, that's a little weird and silly. But when things are done in the context of a story, a fairy tale especially, I think you can have to suspend your disbelief a little bit and place it into that world. And he just was saying goodbye to somebody that he admired. That was the clip that really blew up, and that's why people didn't like it. And then here's another one where Gal Gadot is there as well, and they talk about how they're rewriting it so she's not aspiring to romance, she's aspiring to become powerful, as if that's better.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's...
So while there once was this trope of the damsel in distress that was overused and definitely could use a little peeling back on and allowing women to be independent, there's also the fact that a lot of women see this as a positive thing. Being saved by a man is something that they almost aspire to. They don't look down on it. And a lot of the comments I got from women on when my original videos about this blew up back when I had the longer hair back then would be this sentiment that I've been saved by my man and I experienced it myself and there's nothing wrong about it. Here's a woman who was talking about her fiance and their relationship, and she was excited to be married because she feels safe with him and he's able to calm me down and take me away from it. And this is why she likes Disney and why it resonates with her being saved by a man, because he makes me feel safe. So there is that aspect that women aspire to have a relationship like this, and that there's nothing wrong with that, and it is a good thing. And it's only natural to want something like that. So yes, a woman can save herself in a story as well. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I think definitely it's a bit of an overcorrection to say any man saving a woman is trying to take away her agency. That may be true in certain cases, and it definitely did used to be the trope, but I think it's wrong to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say it's always bad. Nuance is important here, and there's nothing wrong with either side existing in a story. So that is definitely why people reacted so strongly to this video. And it's not just about a man saving a woman, it is about being in a relationship where the other person is willing to put you first before themselves and being there for each other. It's not even just a one-way man-to-woman thing, it can also go the other way. It is just about being with somebody who has the maturity to be able to make sacrifices in order for their relationship to survive, because that is what is necessary in order to have a successful marriage or relationship long term. So that is definitely something that both sides of the equation should be putting into consideration here. Something is off about saying that romance is bad and power is better. I don't like that.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. And
see, the reason why that doesn't work is because, like, true love is like a pure thing, something that is good, something that is what a hero should want. Power is what the bad guys are supposed to want. That's what the villains want. That's why the evil queen is so intent on finding Snow White, is that she feels threatened by this younger person who is supposedly the fairest of them all. She feels threatened because she needs to preserve her place of power. So that is why she is a villain. And now you're changing the meaning of the story at a fundamental level with something like this. And see, the problem here is it's not just what Rachel Zegler is saying, it is the fact that she's reflecting the changes that they want to make to the script. Now, I have a feeling that as a result of these things, they did peel some things back. We know they did reshoots. We'll see what the actual product ends up being. But that's why people really had problems with these things. And also, Rachel Zegler kind of
I was scared.
had this thing where she was contradicting herself about how she felt about Snow White growing up. That's the other thing.
Scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
She's scared of it. She's only watched it once, and she's talking about it as if, like, oh, children wouldn't like that. Even though I think the fact that it has some scary elements in it is what makes it important for children to watch. I think scaring kids to a degree in a safe way, like a Disney movie, is a positive thing overall, because the world is a harsh place. You got to be prepared for that, and there's nothing wrong with having just a little bit of that in some children's movies. So, and then in this interview here, she's talking about everything that it meant to her.
The evil queen, that's a fun thing to be part of.
It's incredible.
Especially now you go to, well, you can't even go to Disneyland anymore. Have you ever been to that Snow White ride at Disneyland?
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for this.
So she only saw it once. She was scared of the ride as a kid, talking about it like that, and now it's this incredible thing, and she's always going back to the ride at Disney World, and she gets stopped for photos. So this is like a lesser point to me. I don't really care about this as much, but there is some contradictions there, so that's why a lot of people focus their ire on Rachel, even though I think it's misplaced, and you should be talking about the production as a whole. So the trailer finally came out, and you can see the look of it, and it looks very similar to a lot of these Disney live action remakes. And I put live action in air quotes like that because really it's mostly another form of animation. It's just computer animation instead of 2D animation. And I'm not a fan of this visual style. It's too much of an emphasis on realism. There's too much like darkness in the lighting, and it's just not as much like popping as the colors do in the actual animation. The actual animation, it has so much life to it. Every frame can stand on its own, and I just don't like this look where it looks like everything's fake and the only thing real, maybe there is an actual set there, I don't know, but just having all these CGI dwarves running around, it doesn't have that same lifelike quality, because like animation has a life of its own. It's not supposed to replicate actual human beings. It's like an over exaggeration of that, so it has its own life force to it, and it takes on a life of its own, and that's what we love about it. But that's why I apply that to all of these Disney remakes. So the trailer itself looks fine. You know, there's nothing I can really point to other than like the color scheme, the Lord Farquaad haircut she's got going on. The music's overproduced. I mean, there's stuff you can point to, but it looks fine. You know, there's not anything in particular that hints either way whether or not the things that she was saying in the interviews is actually going to come true or not. You can see, you know, Prince Charming is here in a place where it doesn't look like he was in the original story, if that is Prince Charming. So it sounds a bit more like he's actually integrated into the story more, despite the fact that Rachel in these interviews was talking about how his role might get cut. It's Hollywood, baby. Who knows? He might get cut out. But it seems like he's actually in the story more now. So, ironically, they might actually be putting more romance into the story overall. So that's my thing with this trailer, is it looks fine, I guess. But it's similar to this Mufasa thing, which, again, it's just another CGI fest. And I'm not a fan of this look. And even with this one, they're changing the story of Mufasa, where he wasn't born to be king, he was an orphan and he was adopted and then he becomes king. It's almost giving Scar reason why he killed Mufasa. Maybe that's what the goal is, but he wasn't an orphan in the original story. They actually explicitly say that his ancestors were the kings of the past. So it's bizarre to take it this route, but I guess everything needs to have an origin story, so that's what they're going for here. So, I don't know. I'm not into it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Does this teaser trailer make you feel any differently than it did with the controversy? So, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.